Hey, it's another episode of What Would You Make? Hosted by Zaina from OK at Home, Simple Roots, Simple Living, and me. Links to all hosts and the playlist will be in the description box. For this first DIY, I'm using one of the wooden snowflake hanging plaques from DollarTree. I have my ruler and I'm going to put 2 holes. Let's make a line. I need to add some holes to put a hanger through or a chenille stem. This is going to be the topper for my Christmas tree. So I'm covering this with nutmeg brown, and once the nutmeg dries, I have a white snowflake that I painted white with apple barrel matte, and I'm going to apply this to the top to add another layer of interest to the snowflake. I want it to look like a gingerbread snowflake, and I just apply Gorilla wood glue to attach it, and then I have different types of gemstone stickers that I want to apply so it looks like sparkly frosting all over the top of my gingerbread snowflake. The first bit I add are these little round ones, and I just add them to the tips of each portion of the snowflake, and then I go in with these rhinestone stickers to add a line on each section and some little clear gemstone stickers beside those, and then these bigger ones that look like lace. I cut those into sections to add just a bit more interest surrounding the inner portion. And with all of my little embellishments, I want to cover this with this extreme glitter so it looks like it's covered in sugar. And once all my extreme glitter is clear, I take a chenille stem and I put it through the holes that I drilled in the beginning. And I'm hoping that this will be able to hold this on top of my Christmas tree. If not, I may have to drill 2 additional holes, but I think this should be good enough to hold it on top. I just love the way it sparkles. Let me know, what do you think of my gingerbread snowflake topper? Our host Zaina is so talented and so sweet. Please go check out her channel for some gorgeous farmhouse inspiration. And our other co-host, Simple Roots, Simple Living, she has some really awesome vintage and farmhouse inspired DIYs. Please check her out as well. For the next DIY, I have a wooden crafter square cross and early American gel stain, and I'm just going to cover this completely in this gel stain and wipe the excess off. And once I have it completely wiped, I take pearl wrap from Dollar Tree and I hot glue that all the way around the perimeter of my cross just to give it just a little bit of interest and embellishment. And then I have some crafter square glittery silver stickers, and I just want to put Jesus right in the center of my cross. These stickers didn't show up as boldly as I thought they would against the dark gel stain, but I think it'll still be a very nice presence on the Christmas tree. Okay, I'm gonna start with this tombstone, but to me, I saw the base of a church. Layer this house sign, and then this birdhouse on the front to make a church, but I'm gonna build it out with some of these craft sticks. So I just get my craft stick and I snip the top, and then I measure it to the side wall of my house sign, snip that, and I use that as my template for the other sticks that I have to cut. And once I have all my sticks cut, I use some of the snipped pieces as bracers, and I get my craft sticks glued together, and I use a combination of Gorilla Wood glue and hot glue for a long-term and short-term hold. And then I go ahead and I snip off the hanger from that house sign. I found that at the Family Dollar. And then I start to measure out the pieces that I'll need to frame out the roof portion. And I just use the same steps that I use for the side walls. And with all of those cut, I go ahead to start to pull apart the birdhouse that will be the entrance way to my little church. And I mark off the areas where I need to cut with my Dremel. And then I take my Dremel and I go ahead and I slice into that portion so that I have a little entrance way for my church. With that cut out, I just go ahead and pull that loosened piece on out, and then I take the Dremel again and I sand down the area that I had cut through just to make sure that it's nice and smooth. And then I start to assemble the walls, and I use the same combination of the Gorilla Wood glue and the hot glue to get this all set up. With my side walls firmly in place, I go ahead and I take the top portion, I add my Gorilla Wood glue again, and then I take my house sign and I place that on top. Once I stand it up and I get my roof pieces laid out, I see that there is a small gap and I want there to be just a little bit of an overhang for my roof portion. So I go ahead and I add another craft stick so I have a nice little roof overhang like the front portion of the birdhouse. And I just use the same combination of the Gorilla Glue and the hot glue to achieve that. And then I go ahead and I attach those roof pieces with my Gorilla Wood glue. And then for this middle portion that looks kind of wonky, I just take a smaller craft stick and hot glue that on top. Then for the front portion of my entryway for my birdhouse, I take a toothpick just to give a little definition to the window on top so it looks like a little multi-paned window. and just a little bit of spackle to cover up the little perch hole. And then I go ahead and I use the Dremel just to smooth out the edges of the roof. With that complete, I take my golden pecan gel stain to completely cover both pieces. I wipe my pieces down completely, and once they're fully dry, I take some glittery winter greenery and I snip off a few pieces to add to the front of the church so it has a nice little entryway setting. I do end up removing this. I ended up finding some little bits of greenery from a Christmas ornament and I removed that. But before I did that, I went ahead and I took a chippy brush and I just brushed a bit of white paint all over. And here I'm hot gluing in my little greenery pieces. And I really wasn't satisfied with these, so I'm happy that I did find that little ornament with the little bits of evergreen on it. And then I just went over both of my wood pieces with my sandpaper just to make it look a little bit more rustic and worn. And here I'm removing that greenery and we're taking this little evergreen off this ornament because it just looked a lot better to me. And I found a mini wreath from Dollar General, and I'm just going to add this to the top of the church. And I did end up adding a third berry. I have no idea what happened to the other one, but it looked kind of weird with just two berries on the side. And then I took some Gorilla Wood glue to attach the entryway to the rest of the church. And I did end up adding a bit of snow, and I wanted to add this cardinal on the top, but the scale was just off. It just looked too monstrous, so I just put it in my photo. And I think this church turned out really, really nice. I made this for my mom. I made something similar last year and she really liked it, so she wanted me to make one for her, and this is her little wooden church. Tell me, what do you think of it? This DIY is super simple. I found this 3-pack of mini bags at Dollar Tree and a wooden hanging piece in the Crafter Square area. So I just picked out the 2 bags that I like the best, and I'm going to Mod Podge one of the images on each side of the little wooden block. They're really pretty, like classic Santa images, and I thought they would look really nice on this wooden piece in a tier tray. So I just made sure that they were the right size, and I just cut the images out, and I used matte Mod Podge to Mod Podge one piece on either side of the wood block. And I did use my Mod Podge roller just to make sure that all the bubbles were out and that I had really good adhesion to the wood piece. And once the piece was fully dry, I just took a nail file to clean up the edges, and that was it for this DIY. So adorable, such classic images, and so easy. And for this DIY, I have a couple of wooden gingerbread man and a hanger from the Dollar Tree, and I want to put these together so I can have some cute gingerbread decor in my kitchen to hang my pot holders from. So I'm just going to take my Dremel and put a couple of holes in each leg of my gingerbread men so that I can attach them to the hanger. And I'm painting these up with some apple barrel nutmeg. And to go in between my gingerbread men, I'm using this styrofoam round to be a piece of candy. I'm going to make this like one of the swirly looking pieces of candy. I really don't trust my my hand in making a giant peppermint. It's going to look really wonky. My smaller ones, I just kind of make like crisscrosses on them. So it was a lot easier just to do the little swirls. And I just did a base image and a marker and went over that with the puffy paint. And here I'm adding my little frosting ballet slipper on one of the gingerbread men, and the other one I just use the plain white apple barrel paint. And then for the bow ties, instead of painting them in, I'm using a bit of fabric I found in Crafter Square, and I'm just tracing out the shape of the bow tie, and then I cut it out and I will Mod Podge both bow ties on. And I used that first bow tie as a template, and I cut out the peppermint fabric for that second gingerbread man. And for the buttons, I'm painting them white so that the color that I end up putting on top really pops. Some of the brown paint got on there, and I just wanted it just to have a good base for the paint. And for the eyes, I'm just using some buttons that I found in a jar of buttons at the Dollar Tree. And for the mouths, I found this red rickrack type ribbon at Dollar Tree, and I thought that would be appropriate as the mouth for both of the gingerbread men. And I'm just using some matte Mod Podge just to attach both of the bow ties. And once my bow ties are set up, I go ahead and I add some paint for the buttons, a lavender and a pink for the gingerbread man with the pink frosting, and then just red and white buttons for the peppermint bow tie gingerbread man. And with all of that completely dry, I used the extreme glitter to add a sugared effect all over both of the gingerbread man and that styrofoam piece of candy. And once they completely dry with the glitter, I go ahead and I use some picture hanger wire to attach my gingerbread man to the metal hanger. And I just, it was better to just go through the back and pull it through both of the holes and wind it in the back of the gingerbread man, and then I snipped it, and I just repeated the same step for both legs on both gingerbread men. But for the candy piece, there was no way the wire was going to work. It would just totally rip through the styrofoam. So I just went ahead and used a combination of tacky glue and hot glue to attach that styrofoam candy to the arms of both gingerbread men, and then to the base the base of the wire hanger. And to cover up the holes for where the screws will hold this onto the wall. I just made a couple of bows and with some peppermint ribbon just to cover that up. And then I went ahead and hung this on the wall, and I think it's just adorable. Let me know, what do you think? And here's a look back at my other What Would You Make projects for today. I really enjoyed making all of these. I hope you enjoyed watching my video. Please enjoy the playlist. I appreciate you guys so much, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas.